So last but not least, we go to ESCOM, our fellow utility. And once again, I'll echo the words of our president, the AMEU president, that we were pleased that ESCOM had accepted the invitation willingly. This is right at the highest level, from the executive level, and they committed to participating in all 6 sessions. So the first session, we have Malcolm van Harte, Senior Manager in ESCOM Distribution. Wealth of knowledge, experience. Is also playing a role in the National Electricity Crisis Committee role. So if I got to pull him from that meeting to come across now, much appreciated, Malcolm. As I say, last but not least, over to you. Let's hear the voice of ESCOM in the significant debate and deliberations. Over to you, Malcolm.
Thank you, VALLY, and members, public and executives. Truly appreciate it, and good afternoon to everybody. It's a real honor to speak at such a esteemed speakers before me. Today, I'm not speaking about markets. That is, I thought the brief was digitalization. So I think key to this is that how do we transform really electricity into electricity 4.1. And I am of the view that distribution business is at the apex point of that transformation. And actually, distribution business will be shaping the future electricity sector as we move forward. Key to this transformation, colleagues and members, is that majority of the data actually in our system is not being utilized. A sample of that information actually comes to the control center, and that information is consumed to make operational decisions. But if we look at certain information that comes from a protection relay, that's normally done post-processing and not processing. So more or less what we are seeing, 20% of that data is not processed. I hope you can see my slides. Process. So key to the digital revolution, as most of the colleagues indicated, that data will become king. And the question is, how do we utilize this data to transform into the new? Noting this, that our traditional power system is changing, the amount of IEDs that we have, sensors that we have, inverters are generating a significant amount of data, be it at a distributed energy resource or a microgrid that really supports us to make better decisions as a utility as we move forward. I think the lower layer is what a number of speakers was talking to, is the market. Critical to this is that as the SAP presentation, brilliant presentation around the wholesale market that is currently available, a flexible market that you can have where you have demand response and ancillary market, your balance response market. All of this will be actually unpacked and available for distributors as we move forward. But critical to this is that you need to manage your network more effectively. You need to manage your data more effectively. You need to have a virtual power stations, because the sources of energy will be at different locations. I think it's clear why we need to move towards the energy 4.0. Critical to this is that those intermittent resources does create challenges for us on the distribution side. The fact that we have to interface or ensure interoperability of multiple assets on the system, be it from sensors, telecommunication, and flexible services, is critical. The amount of data we will have to consume as a distributed industry will be significant, and how to process that will be critical. I think in consuming this data, it has been demonstrated with a number of studies where industries has demonstrated 13 to about 30% of reduction in consumption is just really seeing how you operate. I think as the speakers talked, I added one more slide just to focus on some key topics around digitalization. Critical to digitalization, remote engineering was a key driver to that. Accelerating corporate governance was a key driver. And enabling the customer was a key driver. Higher efficiency of our value chain was a key driver. The e-commerce And all of these are key drivers as what we could see from the BCX report. The constraints to this evolution that we need to have, I think everybody spoke about the skills gaps. I think Eskom cannot train them enough as what the industry takes them up. And the question is, we should not stop and train more people to be more digitally skilled as we move forward. The legislation requirement, does it enable for us in the future? Do we understand and underestimate the change required in all our way we operate and move? And then obviously protection of information becomes key. And the more connected we are, the increase of a threat landscape that is disinformation and antitrust is but of the few of the constraints to digitalization that the latest report from BCX alluded to. But from an Eskom perspective, key to this is it's four major pillars that we are focusing on. The question in our minds when we look at that data is that how do we enhance the customer experience? It is critical that at the end, the customer is king, enabling the customer, supporting the customer to better make decisions. And even in the transformed view, where it becomes a consumer, it is critical that he has the proper information to do that. The second part of this is critical to understand that transformation of your operating model and the products and services that you can provide to the customers and the market as a whole becomes different. As a distributor, it goes without saying that there's an increase of optimization in your productivity, you make better decision, and key to this is real-time decision-making to unlock that potential is the four key areas that is clear benefits for us as we transform in the business. As any good academic will tell you, we have to refer to some form of good literature, and the World Bank was quite clear in its digitalization themes. Key to digitalization was asset management and how do we increase the life of our assets, which is aged, how do we increase productivity, and how do we optimize that things. We cannot do this with unlocking. Grid optimization and aggregation will become king as we evolve the market. However, we do not need a market to evolve aggregation. It is already happening in demand response, and ancillary services and a number of things that's actually possible with levers that is improving our flexibility in real-time monitoring our system. Key to this is integrating services to the customers, make the data available so that you become trusted and trusted and transparent in the information so that customers can make better decisions. In changing your operating model, it is key that you understand how do we monetize this data, because you do not want to keep it away, but at the same time, you can make use of this data in the best way to provide different products and services to customers. There was a fourth theme that I think the World Report has missed. And I think the key theme around the threat landscape increased and the complexity of the data analysis and the engineering behind the data becomes critical. And I think we should not forget the more interconnected we become, the more we increase the ability for us to consume the data and the ability for us to handle the threat landscape that is increased. From a integrated or international energy agency perspective, and we've mirrored this onto our distribution strategy. Critical to this in our digitalization journey, we are introducing a distribution system operator because we need to consume this data so that we can operate as a neutral facilitator to serve local needs, regional needs, and also national needs to manage these energy providers. IPP connections, batteries, microgrid, smart charging into the future, and smarter demand response are all abilities that we need to ensure that we actually enable the transformation to be and then consume data differently as we move forward. I think from a distribution smart grid strategy, I think what we are seeing significantly is that we have a large amount of data as sensors. We have multiple communication channels. We've got a private communication channel, and we use cellular communication channels, APNs, to consume data in a different ways. And we look at engineering, control and monitoring, and customer. These are the three big areas that we are focusing on as a historian or an asset management tool. SAIEE to operate and manage, which is the center of the universe for distributors as we move forward. And then the customer, how the customer will be, because all of this information will be paramount in consuming for our board, our customers, and our field. In doing this, key to unlocking this is through our analytics. And if you do not understand how to process the data, how to engineer the data, and how to make better decisions as you move forward, this will be significantly a challenge. And this is actually where OT and IT meets. And critical to this is that operational technology is the best place for us to consume and analyze that information, because they can fundamentally spot the gaps and the decision-making to improve as we move forward. And I think the Prof alluded to the fact, currently we have some significant number of data. Question is, how do we sort, how do we arrange, and how do we construct it into a clear story that will assist, be it board, be it our customer, be it in the field. But it is essential that you actually transmit this data from data straight through the value chain into creating a clear wisdom of information, so that at the end, the customer, your business partners, your board, your business actually understands what is happening in the field as we move forward. For the sake of time, I am moving fast through it. And I think there has been clear emerging risk in our transformation as we move forward. Clear in everybody's mind, the distribution business has to evolve. Clear in our mind, the shortage of skills and the lack of operational depth remains a challenge. The greater we train our engineers, the greater they move on to more, how do I say, fruitful areas. Interoperability of technology and command platforms becomes critical as we move forward. Modernization of investment. And I think there was a key difference as we move forward. And what we've picked up is that developed countries significantly invest into digitalization, where our developed countries do not have that opportunity. But there's one way that they handle this in regulation, where regulators set standards to say, we want smart metering by the X amount of years, and they allow that pass-through of that smart metering to happen. Cybersecurity goes without saying, increase of connectivity will result in decrease of landscape, and going cloud is a solution for us to optimize. However, in operational technology, that remains a challenge, such as you don't want a nuclear station to sit in the cloud, and neither your control center. In this, as an operating division, you fundamentally have to create that analytical capability. You have to design for data. You'll have to engineer data. You have to put the science behind that data, so that you can consume it for the different audience in a manner that you understand the needs of the business, understand how you're going to reporting to drive the business decisions as we move forward. And this is just one of the models that we utilize in developing the engineering of data. In the conclusion, colleagues, I think there's a reality that distributors as a whole has to transform. And my closing remark just says that South African distributors will be at the epicenter of digital transformation, be it around asset management, be it around grid optimization, be it around interfacing with the customers, be it around providing services beyond the meter to our customers. It's critical that distribution businesses all invest in digitalization as we move forward. Loss of sales is happening, and there's no way we can prevent that. But there creates opportunities for us to integrate and operate more effectively with prosumers, customers, DRs, energy producers. Distribution, Eskom distribution is in the process of putting together a system operator, an energy trader, and an aggregation capability, so that we have a win-win situation for utility and customer and the market at the same time. Many technologies has been emerged as a result of the digitalized revolution, but that will result into an increase of data. How to consume that data is critical, that you have to make up your mind. And clearly, we need to have a clear roadmap around encouraging all distributors to consume that data so that they transform. We cannot be talking about the fifth energy 5.1 if we have not even gone through energy 4.0. Privacy becomes a definite issue. How do we value stack all of this data and engineering and processes against those themes and maintain the competitive advantage as distributors, as a wise business, as a retail business, and as a system operator and trader into the future? The application of big data, artificial intelligence, all of this will assist you as you move through this complex system and this evolving landscape within the distribution business. I think I'll close as following, saying it's important that we are cradling this journey and do not think that this is going to happen overnight. But we need to have a clear roadmap around digitalization for the distribution so that we can unlock the future for distribution as we move forward. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you very much, Malcolm, for an excellent presentation. Prof. Vickers mentioned early on that all those data engineers and data scientists, etc., are going to EPSA and Amazon and so on. I think with this presentation, Malcolm, I think all those data engineers and scientists, Prof. Vickers, would want to migrate into ESCOM, albeit with the challenges, because if you look at the scope of work for data scientist, data engineer, I mean, if I had to go back in my career, whether you're U10, I would follow that field. I mean, it's such exciting times. So thanks for that excellent presentation. I think your focus on data integrity, the conversion of data into information, and most importantly, the conversion into intelligence, especially at the management and higher level. Your focus on the 4 themes, I think that's critically important. Cybersecurity goes without saying. Maybe Malcolm, you will just answer a question for me just now. What is the percentage of capital cost of a, let's call it a data project? The percentage of capital cost should be allocated to cybersecurity. Is it 10% or 15%? We're still debating with that. I think the focus, which is a logical focus on your digital journey, which some of the MUNICs are doing it, the ones that are capable, metros, on the district distribution system operator. I alluded to in my presentation about grid stability, the new grid operator. The old grid operator, probably arguably still now, can manage the grid easily with centralized dispatching, centralized generation. And now that we're moving into the era, not to 10 years, into decentralized generation, dispatching, DERs, the aspect of managing that, especially with new ancillary services, dispatchable load, etc., is critically important to keep the grid without collapsing. And which takes me on to the need, and we are moving there, but we're not there yet. Be that may what people may say, some of the people, but in the next 2 to 3 years, I don't think we're going to be there in terms of a smart annealing grid, which we need to accommodate all of the non-dispatchable power energy that's coming onto the grid and to accommodate the dispatchable synchronous power. What we're doing now is we're putting in energy, clean energy, renewable energy, onto a grid that's been designed for centralized generation and synchronous dispatchable load. Albeit storage will come in, but I think it's going to be not to 3 years. We've got to get as close as possible to a smart grid. I see there's a note on the chat box. ASAP as part of this journey to future proofing. And then the final point you make there, which I think I must highlight, which a few years ago, a senior ESCOM executive pointed this out to me and said, hey, Valley, going forward, the convergence of IT and OT, underpinned by communications, is going to be the key driver. For many, many decades, as we know, experienced and oldish engineers, the IT and OT arena has always been kept separate. I don't know why. Whether it's theft protection and so on, they always seem to have moved, doing good work, but moved in separate paths. But I think now, in this new landscape, there's going to be significant convergence between IT and OT. And the need for the smart grid is important because the recent case study, which people haven't commented on, is the Vietnam study. Vietnam has done extremely well in the last couple of years in bringing on about 9 gigs of renewable energy on the grid, because they also had shortage of electrons. But it was arguably not done in an integrated manner. So you had lots of generation on the generation side, but the grid evacuation didn't keep pace. So now you've got lots of electrons, but you can't evacuate it. And you've got lots of private sector investments, which is now at risk. Okay. So Malcolm, thank you for that. I'm not sure if you've got